Welcome back to the Stuff About Money They Didn't Teach You in School podcast. I am Erik Garcia, your co-host, as always, joined with certified financial planner, Xavier Angel. Now, if you listened to our last show on the two pieces of advice that I was given when I graduated, Xavier made an offhanded comment towards the end of the podcast about contributing to his charity, or he's got a charity for me to contribute to, the Angel Foundation. Well, Xavier Angel, it's his foundation. He wants me to give him money because he's had a lot of unexpected expenses that come up recently. So we're going to start this podcast off by listening to Xavier's sob story about
education planning.
But all the money that he's had to spend in the past, or he's going to have to spend over the summer and spent over the past couple of months that were unexpected, and how important it is to plan for things that you don't even know what you're planning for. So, all right, Xavier, we're all listening. We want to hear your sob story. Maybe we can start a GoFundMe account or do something for you to help you cover all your expenses. Maybe someone will feel sorry for you, but I doubt it. But go ahead.
Erik's joking.
Y'all, I've been listening to this. I've been having to listen to this for months now. So I'm just glad that he's got someone else to tell the story to.
So Erik's joking with the GoFundMe account. But anyway, this started probably about a month and a half ago. Erik and I were sitting down here talking. We were talking about education planning and planning for college. And I think all too often as advisors and financial planners,
just tell us your story, man. Don't give us advice. We just want to hear your story.
No, I'm not giving advice yet. I'm setting the background for it.
Okay.
We plan for leading up to college, and we fail to look at what the expenses are after graduation. So I have two.
You mean you?
Me, correct.
Okay.
I have a 24-year-old and a 22-year-old currently. A 24-year-old graduated from college a year and a half ago. She's now working. She has a job, and she's currently living at home. Then I have my 22-year-old who is graduating this coming Saturday.
And we're in middle of May, just for time reference here.
So I'm sitting back, and within the last 2 to 3 months, everything just starts dawning on me on what my expenses are going to be. My 24-year-old, my daughter, just received a job offer. So she is moving to Washington, D.C. By the end of, she has to be in D.C. on June 3rd. And then my son, who is graduating, needs all of this stuff. It's because he's not moving back home. He'll be moving to DC in August. And so now we're planning for, what do we do after college? After both of them are out of school, what are the expenses that we're going to incur? So I will be in South Bend in the span of 2.5 weeks. I will be in South Bend twice. The following week, I'm headed to DC, and all of these expenses are piling on. Mark needs a car. We're looking at plane tickets back and forth to South Bend. We're looking at a plane ticket to get out to DC. We're looking at expenses for moving expenses for both Caitlin for moving from New Orleans to DC. We now have expenses that we're moving Mark from South Bend to DC. So all of these expenses are piling on. So as Erik and I are sitting here talking, I was like, Erik, when planning for education, for college education, we really need to be planning for the expenses that come after our children graduate.
That GoFundMe account's starting to sound good, huh?
It is. And so I think that, a big part of that is geographically, where is the graduate going? Are they coming back home? Are they staying in the city that they graduated from? Or are they moving to a different spot in the country?
Now,
another part of that is.
Pause you for a second.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So I was going to ask a question, because some people will say, look, I'm going to pay for college, or I'm going to help my kid get through college. After they graduate, they're on their own. So all these expenses that you're talking about, some people would say, like, man, that's their problem. They need a car. That's their problem. They need to figure out how to get from here to there. That's their problem.
So let's let's look at it in today's environment. And I'm one of the ones that was saying that as well, right? That was my mindset.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're looking at a 24-year-old packing up and accepting a new job, going across the country, there are still expenses that that individual is going to take on. Housing, right? So they've got to put, generally, they have to put first and last month's rent down. So that's an expense. They now have to furnish that apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And they're typically not going to get their paycheck until 2 to 3 weeks after they move up there. So where do you get all of those, the other expenses to come to help them get started? Then if you look at, well, he's moving from, South Bend and going to DC. Is his job in DC? Is it outside of DC? So now we have to look at transportation for him. Well, obviously, if it's within the public transportation system, that's easy for him to get around. So, but in this case, we're going out and we're getting, we're looking at a car for him. We need reliable transportation for him when he's working late at night. So those are all the things that just pop up that, yeah, I thought, you know what, they're on their own. They've graduated, they're working, they'll be fine. But it's those first 6 to 12 months that I think are important because those paychecks aren't coming in right away. And there's added expenses that we have to plan for to help them get started. Now, after we get them started or help them get up and running, they're on their own. But how do we get them to that point?
So how do you plan? How do you plan for that? I mean, we're staring down college costs that are like through the roof, and it's just the prices are not getting any better. Um, so most people can't even afford to fund college, much
Mm-hmm.
less even think about like what comes after. So how do you set yourself up? So if you got, so let's say our listeners have kids, maybe not college age, but getting, they're starting to think about this idea like, oh man, this 10-year-old kid is going to be going to college in 8 years and college is expensive. Like, how do you go about planning for this and even thinking about this stuff?
When our previous episode, you talked about that saving that 25%, right? And we went down that, we had that conversation and we talked about retirement versus the work optional account. So if we're saving money on a regular basis, if we had that strategy for saving money, then in that work optional account, we have options in there. So when that time comes, if I need monies to purchase another car, if I need money for relocation, I have access to those monies. I'm not stressed because I've been saving over X amount of years to begin to have that liquidity and that freedom.
Yeah, one of the things that I was having a conversation with someone recently, and we built into the financial plan a gift to the child. So like post college gift, right? Back in the day, it might have been like, I'm going to pay for a wedding for my daughter, right? But what do you do if your kid doesn't want an expensive wedding? Or what do you do, assuming you're following the traditional lines where the daughter's family pays for the wedding? What do you do for your son? So we built into the plan just a one-time gift for each kid at some point after college. I think the date was like at age 25 or something along those lines. I don't know what it was. And built that into the plan and saved towards that. I think what's important here is that, and if there's anything in this lesson here in your experience, is you don't want to go into these situations with your eyes shut. You want to have your eyes wide open. You want to know what you're, even if, I mean, there's no way I have the money set aside for this. You're going into it, planning for it, expecting it. So you're better able to respond when you're in that situation.
Right. Absolutely. And that's the most important thing. I'm we've been saving. So we have that work optional account to where now I have access to those monies for everything that is popping up right now.
I don't think we define in this episode work optional account. Work optional account is just a regular investment account. That's just something I call it. I like the idea of labeling pots of money. So the idea with the work optional account is at some point in the future, if I need an expense, I might not have to work for it because I got the money set aside. The work part is optional. So that's what Xavier keeps referencing to work optional. One of the things I was talking to my wife about recently was our daughter. She's only a sophomore in high school, but she's probably going to go away for college. And I was like, I want to be in a position where if we want to go visit her during the semester, and she's a dancer, so if she's dancing in college and has a performance, and we want to go see it, man, I would love to be in a position to not have to stress about the cost of it. So like in my mind, like I'm mentally putting money aside, and she's like, oh, you have a pot of money for everything. I said, no, just mentally I'm ascribing money to that particular purpose, so that if I have to drop whatever it costs to go see a performance or go visit her away, it's not a stressful or an anxiety raising experience. But again, that's being thoughtful about future uses of money, and that's part of the financial planning purposes or financial planning process.
And one of the things that we talk about often is, know your goals. What's that short term? What's the intermediate term? What's your long-term goals?
But the goals here specifically, you started with kids in college.
Correct.
And I would say kind of even before your goals is what's your values. So I was having a meeting with another client recently, and him and his wife, their value is, hey, look, I had to work through college. They're gonna have to work through college. I can't afford to pay for. I'm not gonna put any money towards their college. I want to enjoy the money that I'm making for my. And some people might think that's cruel, like, oh, that's cruel, but that's their value, whether you agree or disagree. And so he doesn't have to worry about buying a car after college or moving a kid across the country like you're considering, because your value is, hey, I want to make sure my kids are in a position to be as successful as possible. Not to say that his isn't. His definition of success is different. His definition
success, right. Success is defined by the individual.
Well, it's, what, having to work through college is going to teach a different type of skill, and that's the skill I want that child to have.
Right. So and look, I worked through college. I paid, my student loans, my I paid those off. I didn't have someone paying for my education for me.
So before you set that goal, it's man, what are your values? Are you going to because here's the thing. There's those things that we say we want to do, like we believe that we want to do them, but then like we're really not taking any actions towards them. So I hear a lot of people say, I want to pay for my kids' college, but you're not doing anything meaningful towards that. $100 a month in a 529 plan when they're 10 is not gonna be now look, any dollar saved is one less you need to borrow. So I'm a big fan of that. But saving $1,000 a year when they're 10 and they're going to go off to college and have 10,000 plus any potential gain in the account, or 8,000 plus any potential gain, that's not going to make any meaningful impact on tuition, but it is going to make an impact. The point that I'm making is you really need to understand what you believe about, am I going to pay for college? Am I going to pay student loans for my kid? Am I going to borrow money for myself to pay for them? Am I going to neglect my own retirement to send my kid to school? These are the conversations around college planning that I've been having with a lot of clients more recently. Is there's no such thing as a retirement loan. Nobody wants their kids to be strapped with student debt, but at least they have their entire working life to pay off that debt. You don't have, unlimited time to continue to work and save for retirement. For us, we want to help our kids as much as possible. And if I'm in a position when they graduated and they got student loan, and we're in a position we're going to help them. But I don't think it's wise to neglect my own retirement and other things that I have to pay for college.
Absolutely. Now that's why I'm turning gray, by the way.
Why? Because you're having to pay for college?
Well, no, we didn't. Well, we were fortunate. We were blessed with that.
Yeah, I don't have any.
I know you just don't have hair.
I just lost my hair. So I think that if there's a lesson here, it's know your value when it comes to college paying for college for your kids. What do you want to do? Once you understand your values, you can start to set goals for it, and you can start to set real deliberate behaviors to achieve those goals. And if it's one of those things where, I want to have some money there just in case, a little bit here, a little bit there, then that's it. Plan for that. But I think it's important to kind of have your eyes wide open going into these situations, and knowing, as you said, I mean, you have all these surprise expenses.
You're absolutely right, Eric. So hopefully you guys enjoyed my story. And again, Eric's joking about that GoFundMe account, but
It's not a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea. If you guys enjoyed what you hear on our podcast, please share and download it anywhere that you listen to your podcast. Appreciate you. Have a great day.